Watermelon sugar. Mm, mm, mm.
Okay. Alrighty. So, Dana, we are live. The people see us and we're good to go. I love when that happens.
It's live now. It's live
We
now.
are live. And look, I've just been on my phone making sure the stream is going. Mondays, you gotta love it. Hello, everybody. It is Misha Green, DC editor. Thanks for tuning in with me, even though we weren't positive we were live. I am so incredibly honored to be talking to this amazing entrepreneur, the great Sinclair Skinner, who's been killing it in this game for many, many years. This, of course, iloveblackpeople.com is this new venture that we'll be talking about, but trust me, he's been going for a while and making sure that he's empowering us in the process. And as we approach this really, really crazy general election, I know that Sinclair and I have a lot to talk about. So I'm excited to chat with him today. But y'all know the drill. Before we go live, we have to share the stream. Y'all see it here live. Sinclair is there. We're about to go. And yeah, let me go ahead. And thanks to all those who are already tuning in. We already got about 70 people. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes. Hello, everybody. Okay. This is awesome.
All right.
Sinclair, you already shared and good to go?
Yeah, I shared to my personal and I shared it to our page. I'm just trying to make sure I did the right thing. Yeah, I think it's up there. Yeah, I see me. I did it. I did it. I don't know if you can see it. I did it. There we go.
Perfect. Yes.
All
All
right,
right.
all
Now
right,
we're
okay.
official. Now we're official.
Official.
All right. Sinclair Skinner. First of all, we are in the middle of a pandemic still. There's a lot going on that we see that the world doesn't necessarily love Black people right now. So,
Unclear.
tell us just how are you doing before we get into the nitty gritty of this interview?
You know, that's such a loving question. So I think that's even what I've been learning with this journey is asking the question. How are you? Like that right there. We kind of brush it off, but just like how are you? And I tell you what, we're making it. I actually had the first test swab ever up into my eyeball. Felt like about a week ago. I had been sheltered in place for like 7 months with my wife in the Dominican Republic. So I had literally just been in the Dominican Republic working remotely with my team. And it wasn't until I've been here 2 weeks. So 2 weeks ago, we got back into DC. And like little things like being in the elevator with other people, like I didn't know if these people were racist or not. Y'all don't want to get in an elevator with me. It was like a weird, but there's a spatial thing.
Yeah.
And then I've attended some events or like activities, and standing in line, of course the grocery store you get that. Like even the Dominican Republic, they got the little things where but like when you're in like social gatherings, you're trying to figure out. Like I try to be like warm with I'm pro-blacks. I love us. I want to greet and not disrespect. And even with brothers, I want to make sure eye contact, hey bro, like positive. But you don't want to invade people's space. You don't want to make people feel like, well, wait a minute, you disrespected me by coming this close. You could have the heebie-jeebies. So it's kind of like learning the etiquette of this space and traveling and like my parents didn't necessarily want to see us because they were they're like in their 70s. So I'm like, you sure, Pop? Yeah, hey, look, I don't. He's in Florida where they real crazy. And then so we came out to LA to see my niece and my sister. And everybody. I think that's another thing. You got to check with everybody because everybody's different. You can't assume because someone's old that they're not, or assume because someone's younger that they're another way. So it's kind of been like one of those things where just learning the boundaries in space to be still respectful.
Yeah, I think respect is the key word in all of this. I mean, you, everybody has their own level of comfort during this, and mine has shifted and changed throughout completely. But I think respect is key. I got to ask this follow up, because to know that you were in DR for the past 7 months, as we've been in this really difficult time in the United States, being a Black man overseas, how has that been? Or what was that like? And I know DR, of course, has their own sort of racial relations, etc. But
I think the biggest thing, I lost over 50 pounds. So first of all, my wife was coming to the DR. I mean, to come to the United States, and then I had friends say, look, because my wife is not a resident, so she just has a visa. And they were like, look, with Donald Trump, you don't know, she might get trapped here and something crazy. So I literally didn't expect to spend 7 months there, because I didn't know I kept telling people I'll be back next month. Like, I never, and one of the things I did was just try to, do things better. And one of the things we started doing was like intermittent fasting, eating better food, just doing something. And I was like 200, like almost 250 pounds. So I got down. My lowest weight so far has been 188. I'm wearing a large shirt. I used to be a double X. This is a large. I used to be a double X. Now this is a large. So I just, it's a little less of me now, and in spite of this, been a little less of me. But that being said, it's been a blessing. And then it was the most time I spent with my wife. Like, I've heard folks say, look, whatever years you've been married, the corona multiplies it by 3. So I've been married for 4 years. They said that's like a 12-year marriage. And it literally has been a blast. Like, literally. And I think that's the thing that we should relearn or reteach ourselves, is that it's our relationships. Like, I've pursued all kinds of success, but I think the most important thing, even with the loss of friends and loss of folks in our community, and the ones that we are still here with, is to really cherish the relationships. Don't get so consumed with the paper chase. Like, so many people, because we're so afraid and insecure, talk about getting money. Like, we need this money because, well, you know what? We need each other. Like, I've been bankrupt. I was bankrupt like 2003, and money didn't get me out of that. It was literally the friends and family members that literally cared about me. So we're in the pandemic, like, really the plug, the real thing that we have is each other. So for us to, like, again, politics is important, economics is important, but I'm saying no matter what happens November 3rd, no matter how much money you got in your bank, if we got each other, we can figure this out. Your money will go a lot further. Your vote will go a lot further if we stick together. Now, if we're worried about trying to chase Democrats down, Republicans down, that's fine. Whatever your thing is, if you're independent, but if we collectively, and when I say we, I don't mean like this spooky, we all got to yabba dabba do the same thing. I'm just saying, whatever you into, if I can vibe with you on that, on the levels that I vibe with, if I can check, people have been doing this thing with virtual homecomings. Like, I think it's important that we just connect virtually, whatever way we can connect. Let's be there for each other at whatever capacity we have to give at that time. Because sometimes it's heavy on all of us. Like, a lot of this stuff we do, like this get out the vote, we've been doing with I Love Black People. I've been calling folks up, hey, they're raising money for our efforts and stuff. And you talk to folks and they uncle sick and intensive care, and you talking about voting. Now listen, voting's important, but voting ain't more important than my uncle. I'm clear, like, the voting, like, do support this campaign to get people out to vote. You got $10, support it. But if it's a choice between the $10 for the campaign and $10 for your uncle, I'm clear your uncle better win that one, like, on everything. So it's kind of like having perspective. Again, it's important that we support the causes and the things that we agree with. They say a lot of times you can tell priorities by the pocketbook, by the wallet. So you definitely need to show that you support something. But I think family and friends, like, the biggest thing I get out of this whole episode, and I think it is an episode. This is not going to be how it's going to be forever like this. Like, as Black folks, we've been through so much. I tell people what we've been through, like, that we had the kitchen sink, then we've had everything thrown at it. And I'm 51, so I'm a Gen Xer. And when I came of age, we had crack cocaine come out. We had AIDS. Like, and I know it's hard because you seem like you probably about 25, but I know it's hard to appreciate.
Yeah.
Humbly, baby girl. I know you may not understand this, but you know, when I came of age, you know, the birds and the bees was just a a very simple conversation about coming of age sexually. But when AIDS broke out in 87, 86, 85, so it was a life or death. Like no one thought that this could kill you. So I think, we've been through so many things, and sometimes, even when we talk about, I'm Baptist, but I have many friends that are Buddhist and Muslim and non whatever. But David actually beat the bear and the lion before he got to Goliath. Like literally, as a people, this ain't the first time we've had somebody or something come to try to harm us. No, to kill us. And we've been dealing with genocide. Literally, genocide is when you like target a community and try to kill them. Our community has been targeted the whole time we've been in America. So for us to say that, this is an episode, I'm saying to say that we've been through some really difficult times, and we may have some additional difficult times, but we've shown, not just by my words, but we've shown by our actions and by our just being here, that we're more than conquerors. Like what we go through and what we've been through, and still have the swag and still have that joy in our heart, in spite of crack cocaine. You know what I'm saying? And we've been even dealing in our family, have members relapsing on drugs and things like that. So it's always, we're dealing with things that are coming at us. I think we just got to try to be more sympathetic for each other. We got people disagreeing on politics, but don't let politicians, and I've supported and been a part of all kinds of political campaigns, but don't let that be the thing that determines who you like or don't like. Like, again, this election is going to pass, but we're going to still have to live together. Now, let's figure that part out. Like, that's really the figure out who to vote for. I'm clear. I'm voting for the black woman. I vote for black women. I don't care what they doing. Listen, look, if it's a qualified black woman running for something, that's my. I don't even. It's not like a deliberation. I'm not sure. I'm calculating 5 times 23 divided by 2. Listen, I'm voting for the sister. That's all right. And whatever happens, hey, I'm willing to deal with the consequences. But I think in a real way, it's about how do we interact with each other, and to know that these episodes are going to come, and we got to be there to support each other and at whatever level of ability that we have. And again, be respectful for those who are struggling. When I've called people for support and they say, look, I'm dealing with that. I keep y'all in prayer. And look, prayer works. I don't think, and again, look, whatever you into, I think we don't, and this is what we do with this is my actual startup. If we got 4 or more people on the call, we always start off with a prayer. And not to push no Christian or Muslim. What we say is that even though it seems like most of this life is physical, it's really mostly spiritual. However we got here on this call together, let's go ahead and take some time and just connect with the ancestors. That, again, God sent the ancestors to get to us. So just connect to God, our ancestors, and just to be thankful and to kind of like connect with that energy that really gives us that supernatural power. Well, this probably is the natural. We call it supernatural. It's actually the natural power that we have. So again, don't just rely on that physical stuff. There's some spiritual stuff. However, you into, try to make sure you also draw on that, because again, that spiritual, that energy, those vibrations, all of that is a part of our power. And we shouldn't let, people to try to put us in a compartment. Like, we got to just do this or just use your brains. You got a degree. I don't care how many degrees you got. You still can get corona. Hello? I don't care how much money you got. You still can get corona. Hello? So let's stop this spooky talk about stuff that, at the end of the day, it's going to take a heck of a lot more than just a degree and some money in your pocket. It's going to really take some type of collective working together that we can make all these things go further and be, more impactful. So again, I'm thankful that the Afro is doing things like this. And, again, the legacy, when I saw it, and the fact y'all got since 1892, that's powerful. I don't know. I mean, I know y'all got like good designers that are doing all those. I'm an engineer by profession, so I'm still struggling with that. But the fact you making it clear, 1892 is a real number. Like, that's a real number. And to let folks be clear, we didn't just get here. We've been here, and we're still rocking on on every, that's in spite of, not because of, in spite of, we still rocking. So I respect humbly.
Look, I am so incredibly inspired after talking to you. You know, I remember I talked to Sinclair's amazing publicist the other day, and I was like, I know Sinclair's name, like he is amazing. And then as soon as I Googled you, I'm like, yes, I'm gonna have such a good conversation with this man. And that's exactly what's happening. I just gotta shout out the people who are tuning in and vibing with us. Thank you all so much for being here today. Josh Lopez, who is you know, a fighter, a great person in the community and doing the good work, says Sinclair Skinner is a pioneer. And that sure enough is the case. Thanks so much, Joshua, for tuning in. But also, I want to talk about that for a second and let the people know who you are and what you do, because iloveblackpeople.com is I think a beautiful representation of the work that you've been putting in for years. Can you tell us about who you are? And then we're going to talk about this campaign that you guys are doing with these awesome t-shirts.
No, humbly, thank you, sister, for that. And again, people like Josh and so many people in the community. I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for the support of so many folks that have really been there in some of the most difficult times in my life. Again, both of my parents are still married. My dad was in the military. I don't know how long. I'm gonna give you the longer, and then you kind of go like this and then cut me off. But
we need to know the trajectory.
no, humbly. So my parents were, I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri. When I say that, I was a military brat, but my parents literally were high school sweethearts, and my mom literally was pregnant with my brother while she was graduating. So this is, one of them old school styles. I won't say it was a shotgun wedding, but this is old school. And my parents been married over 50, I'm 51, 53 years. And they really laid the foundation. My mom probably is the one who taught me kindness. She taught me to be considerate. She's the one who actually shared and helped me develop a relationship with God and to know, Jesus Christ, and actually, become someone who had a real spiritual power. My father was the one who probably taught me what it meant to be about respect and work and having a work ethic and having your word mean something. Like, it was really like my father, he don't play. He still don't play. And he went to work every day, came home every day. My dad didn't have a whole bunch of friends over. He was him and Joyce, him and his wife. He didn't play no games with that. And he worked all his way to make sure he had a good life for his children. So I think I've been blessed, and I can't say it enough, to have parents that really, really love me, in spite of, like, even if they don't even understand what I'm doing. Like, they don't even, a lot of things I've done, I don't know what that is. But and that's my point. Like, love is like unconditional love. Like, so, with all the things that have gone, and so we traveled a lot. I ended up so with that being said, my background is I'm a mechanical engineer. I went to Tuskegee initially. And then I ended up, and that's where I kind of got my early start in organizing and campaigning. I actually worked on the Jesse Jackson's campaign in '88. So I was like 19, and that was in Alabama. And I always tell people, Jesse didn't have a lot of money, but what he did differently that a lot of other politicians hadn't done. Up until that time, the Democratic Party didn't really have a lot of state chairs that were Black. They would have like Black folks work in the background doing like all the work, and really predominantly Black women doing all the work and no recognition. And Jesse came on board on the scene, not '84, I was too young for '84, but '88. He would give Black folks at least a title of chair. Like, you're running my campaign in Alabama. So a lot of the Black folks that had been doing so much work, not even getting paid, they finally got the recognition when Jesse came out. And what was interesting in Alabama, a lot of people don't realize the journey we've been on, is that in those days, getting registered to vote was difficult. Like, now we talk about voter suppression, but back in those days, we had voter registration suppression, where literally just being able to vote was a difficult task. You had to go to the justice of the peace or the courthouse just to get registered. and some of y'all are too young, but they still then had selective service. So there was also a little caveat where you had to register for the draft. Again, the talking about the draft is probably beyond your years, but there was like certain things you had to do, but registering to vote was very difficult. And it wasn't until 93 they came out with Motor Voter, which allowed people to actually register to vote and send it in by mail. You didn't have to have a notary or have a justice of the peace of someone. And I was what they call voter registrar. I was deputized to take people's registrations they were filling out in the 88 to then take them to the courthouse in order for those people to be registered. So all of those things we don't talk about, but we've come a long way in the process. And so when I got a little taste of that politics, even though my degree was mechanical engineer, I ended up running for a student government president at Tuskegee. And I actually, the first time I ran, I lost, got whooped. So, that being said, it was kind of one of those things. It was funny. And this is being a Kappa, there was also like a little political tension on campus with, folks, these people, these Greek letter organizations trying to do it. It was funny. The guy who was running against me was somebody who had been interested in pledging Kappa. So it was kind of like, oh, how y'all gonna try to beat? It was again, these are early 90s when this whole fraternity stuff looked crazier. But with that being said, I lost and I ran again though. So I ran again the second time, and I think I was a little more humble. I was more appreciative and apologized to anybody who ever thought I did anything wrong. Just please vote for me. And they ended up voting for me, and I won. And I was in my senior year at this point. I was a super duper senior, and I was supposed to graduate that summer. And then, we had still a lot of complaints on campus. We had, a sister get raped right off campus. There was, tuition was going up. The library wasn't the way it should be. There was, a whole bunch of issues that we were facing. So we had some student protests. And this is in 92. So in 88, we had protests. We had protests in 92. And I was student government president. And we took over the administration building. And we took it over while the trustees were there. And Tuskegee, a private university. So we had some pretty heavy hitters, like the CEO of Pepsi Cola, Craig Winthorpe. We had the CEO at the time of Essence Magazine, Edward Lewis. We had the former Attorney General of Civil Rights, Mary Berry. We had all these, amazing people. We came to tell them our demands, and just to prep before the takeover, for the building takeover, we were getting registered, and we had told the administration, look, now y'all need to take our demands seriously. So we asked the students all to sit down getting registered. You know how, like, again, historical Black colleges, there are long lines when you're trying to get registered. We told all the students to sit down for 1.5 minutes.
Wow.
Just sit down. And literally the administration was like, oh my God. So to get it, but then everybody stood back up. So we didn't take over the building at the time. So look, we did a petition, had all these signatures, and we said, look, we're serious. And make a long story short, they never respected our demands. We took over the building. The board of trustees, tried to leave, and the security came and forced all the students out. And then the students, we had them lay down in front of the cars of the trustees because they were trying to leave, and we had them all lay down in front of. They had like a van, like a van to the airport. So we had them lay down on the ground so that the van couldn't move. And then the vice president of student affairs was terrible. He's still a terrible. Anyway, God bless us. We said, look, in order for the students to get up, you need to apologize for treating us so bad. Because what happens at schools like Tuskegee, and people, if they ever read the book by Ralph Ellison, Invisible Man, he literally takes so much of what happened there from literally how Tuskegee was. When you're in a small place like that, no one understands what's going on. This is pre-social media. So our voices, we felt voiceless. Like we're paying tuition, we're spending our lives here. No one's listening. And that was our attempt with the trustees there to like scream out, like help. And we told the vice president of student affairs to apologize. So in order for him to get up. So first he didn't want to apologize. And one of the other administrators said, look, man, you just need to go ahead. These are trustees right here. We need to get these people out of here. Right. I ain't losing my job from you trying to be the boss. So with like a long story short, it was like the university advancement guy. So he elbows the guy and tells the vice president to apologize. So he said, I apologize for whatever y'all think I might have done. And then we said, we can't hear you. So then he had to say, so, I'm sorry. Anyway, make a long story short, the students all got up, the trustees left, and but they arrested like 5 students for disorderly conduct or something like that. So we had to continue the protesting and keep things going. And ultimately, they suspended myself. They actually disbanded the total student government. They disbanded the student newspaper. Myself, the vice president, and some of the other students, they kicked out of school. They call it indefinite suspension. And again, Tuskegee is a private school, so it's not like there's a freedom to assemble. Like at your job at the Afro, if you decide you're going to protest, like that's a private company. You don't have to do nothing you say.
Right.
So with that said, unfortunately, that's the same viewpoint that the university took, and we even had to deal with just William Gray was the lawyer for the university. And what's so funny about again, this is Alabama old school, right? William Gray, who represented the university to kick us out of school, was the same person who actually represented the Tuskegee experiment when they were doing the class action suit for the Tuskegee experiment. And he also represented Rosa Parks when she was dealing with Montgomery. So what happens, and this is the part that gets tricky with some of these, back in those days, these people were super progressive. By the time of this part of their lives, they were part of the status quo and they were trying to maintain order. Like, so literally they got to where they were from protesting and disrupting the system. Right. And now they're the gatekeepers. Like, look, you need to take your black behind back to class. Now, if you don't, Mr. Skinner, it's going to be a long day out of class. And
that's so interesting.
So it was all bad real quick. So ultimately, we protested and we still weren't able to get everybody back in school. And then they finally had like a hearing, and it was a sham hearing, but they ended up kicking us out. They actually came to our class and pulled us out of class, and we couldn't come back on campus. And it was so funny. And these are old little nuggets that you may not know. There was a thing called the Freaknik. So literally, literally the week of Freaknik, like that Thursday, I got kicked out of school forever. And then so to make it up to me, my frat brothers took me to Atlanta. Like, look, don't worry about it. Now look, I'm supposed to graduate that summer. Like literally my whole life was like flashing before my eyes. And I remember I called my father. I told you he was a military. So my dad's not a protester guy. Yeah. And I told him what I was doing. And he said, and this is the best advice he could give. And it was so loving in a way that, because he couldn't understand necessarily what was going on, but he said, whatever you do, son, just be willing. If this is what you want to do, if this is what you've been compelled and you think is your responsibility to do, be willing to accept the consequences. Whatever you do, if you do it or not, if y'all go in this building tomorrow, if you do it or not, whatever you do. So I'm not saying my dad was complicit in the act. I'm just saying, he said, whatever you do, be willing to accept the consequences. And I think with life, so often, people talk about leadership. Most of our life, we're going to be followers. Mm-hmm. But whatever we do, be willing to accept the consequences of it. And I think we got kicked out of school. We had a lawsuit to try to get back in school. Some students, they settled to let them get in. They gave me a harder time, as well as the vice president. And the vice president was Muslim. It was so bad, they tried to do a settlement with him and make him go to chapel every Sunday. It was like a real crazy, like, what is this stuff? And what happened? But I'm going to tell you how God is real. And I say God, not trying to make people feel like I'm trying to push an agenda in that regard. But I'm just saying sometimes it's not your own brain that's going to figure this thing out. There was a sister that stayed in the apartment complex that I had lived in, who was definitely cool with me. And her dad just so happened to be the dean of the School of Engineering at Howard University. And listen, I'm in Tuskegee. I had already applied to Howard to go to grad school. So when they kick you out of school, they freeze all your pay. You can't go nowhere. I remember going to the provost's office saying, look, can y'all at least release my transcript so I can at least get a job commensurate with my, my experience, and, my college, experience. They said, no, this will give you some time to think about what you did, Mr. Skinner. So
Mm.
that being said, and this is a pro, and I thought I had a decent relationship. Well, you know how anyway, when things go bad, these people think about their job. Look, they looking at you knowing what they doing might be problematic. But again, they're serving something bigger. And again, that courage thing is always been a key part of what I think we should always be able to stand against principalities. And those are the things that we got to think about. But make a long story short, the one place that had my transcript already was Howard University. Now check this out. So now the sister, Sickler, I told you my dad was a dean. And so I was like, okay, so and in those days, you go to Ebony magazine, they had all like the top 100 important people.
Yeah.
And that's what she had told. I told you my dad was in Ebony. So literally, and this is before cell phones. This is 92, 93. This is 93. So she gave me her dad's phone number. I called him and, told him what happened. And he said, look, just you need to, have your application reconsidered for undergrad. Okay, so your application you currently have in, you need to submit a letter asking it to be reconsidered for undergrad. I said, do I say I got kicked out of school? He said, no, don't do that. Don't tell me you got kicked out of school. Just ask them to get reconsidered and maybe put something in your essay about maybe a sentence, but don't elaborate. Just, again, get this letter to have it reconsidered. So I was like, cool. Make a long story short, I literally get into Howard University.
Wow.
The guy not only turns out to be the dean, and let me just tell you how hard this is. Most historically Black colleges don't have engineering programs. Morgan State, FAM shares one, Southern. I mean, there's really probably on one hand you can count the schools that literally have an engineering program. And out of all those engineering programs, many of them don't have an African American dean. Yeah. Somebody who can relate directly to the struggle, like somebody who was born and raised here like that. So in a real way, the fact that one of the few places his daughter knows me, and he turns out to be a Kappa too. So he's a big brother. I'm like, yo. So again, when I talk about God, like if you prayed that prayer, Lord, please have me be able to you would almost be like, don't even do that to God.
Yeah.
Literally, closed mouths don't get fed. You ask not, you won't not. There's something I'm not trying to get off. Listen, you got to ask for what you really, really want. And to make a long story short, I ended up getting to school at Howard University that winter of '94. And even by the time I got there, the local community in Tuskegee, they gave us jobs because the school, Tuskegee didn't have a good relationship with the city. So literally the mayor and the city council, they helped me and all our team get jobs in the summer. So we worked for the Park Service, and then I worked for the engineering area there. So we, as many older Black folks that whooped the hell out of us and beat us down, we did have elders that literally were there to catch us when we fell and say, look, you keep going. Whatever, happens, don't you stop. And then I even got a scholarship at Howard that was just for students who transferred in engineering.
What?
You can't even make that up. Listen, the name of the program was called TRAG, Transfer and Go Grad. But listen, let me say, if you was a student that started at Howard and stayed in Drew Hall, you couldn't get this scholarship. It was only for students. And what they were doing, it was really for students who were coming from community colleges to get them to go into applied sciences. And so what happened was they had a shortfall of students who directly were coming from community college. So as long as you transferred and were in engineering, you was good.
Wow.
They paid for my books. I ended up going to Africa, Brazil, real talk on everything. There's been 2 homecomings that just took place, Tuskegee and Howard. I love both. You know what I'm saying? I came of age at Tuskegee, and Howard saved me. So everything, I tell folks, I got nothing but love. And, it was a long trip. I was a super duper senior. It took me 9 years to get a 4-year degree. When all things were said and done, I came in with what was it, Salt and Pepper, pushing it, and then I left on P Diddy and Tupac at the end. I did the whole hip hop, the A to Z. You know what I'm saying? And so it was I had the whole 9 years. This is almost a decade of in college. So I had super duper school days. So with all that being said, there's so much I've left out of that part of it. So again, those are some of the things that my background. I ended up finishing at Howard. I was in the MBA. I actually ended up failing out of the MBA program at Howard and started my first business. So when I graduated from Howard undergrad, I got a gig working at a company called Omeda, designing incubators for babies. So again, I'm still an engineer. I actually took the engineering and training test. To be a professional engineer, you got to take a series of tests, and then you have to work for an engineer over a period of time. And then once you work for an engineer long enough, they'll sign off on your qualifications. So I had taken the EIT, but I worked for a company manufacturing making incubators. Some of the company that makes the ventilators that people have been talking about in the United States for the COVID, there's the same company I work for. They also make incubators.
Wow.
And then I left there and ended up at the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office as a patent examiner out in Crystal City when I was there. And I just got tired of working on the plantation. I never wanted to work for anybody. I got a problem. You see, I got a problem with authority. So I didn't like being told what to do anyway. And it was, one of those things where I really, the whole MBA program was, again, always about trying to do for self and self-determination. So at the end of the day, the opportunity, I didn't want to wait for an opportunity. I had to make one. I ended up leaving the U.S. Patent Office, and in the process, I bought a house on Georgia Avenue. So I graduated in 96, and I bought a house on Georgia Avenue in 98, which again, the house was like $80,000. This is on Georgia Avenue. This is back in the day. Yeah, you can't even think of these numbers. And I bought it with the 203K loan, where they give you the part of the money to actually renovate it. It was a crack house before I had bought it. Wow. And so I tricked it out, ended up having the sister was my contractor, so I felt good. I had a black woman in charge of it, and she ended up being a crook. So she beat me out on a lot of money, and the house never was actually all the way it should have been. Make a long story short, though, we converted the basement into its own unit, and I ultimately made it a dry cleaner. So I left the patent and trademark office to embark upon my own entrepreneurial dream in 1999. I need to probably do better with these dates. So 1999, that was my last time working on a plantation. And I never looked back. I might have peeked around the corner a couple of times, but I definitely left. And I picked a dry cleaner. I had a godmother, Donna Sanders, may she rest in peace. She was in the industry, and Booker T. Washington was a big influence. He always talked about casting your bucket down where you are, be useful. And I thought a dry cleaner is right across the street from Howard University. This is between Euclid and Fairmont. Would be a perfect. It'd be a perfect location for that. But what people don't tell you, Howard is just so big. It's not like University of Maryland, University of Michigan, where you got tens of thousands of people. So literally in the summertime, it was the worst place to have a business. The school was shut down. There was nobody uptown Georgia Avenue. People would love to go to Georgia, but not Georgia Avenue. Even hiring people, I had to change. I was hiring a seamstress. I had to put Upper Northwest instead of saying Georgia Avenue, because people didn't even want to, have a job on Georgia Avenue.
We're not going uptown.
we're not going uptown that way. Yeah. So make a long story short, I ended up having a total of 4 dry cleaners, and it just never worked. I actually I did cleaning for Howard University's band, their security. I did Catholic University's security uniforms. I did the Embassy Suites downtown. I did their clothes for them. I did the police department. This is funny. The police department, when they do those lineups, you ever see the movies? They got the lineup. Who did it?
Yeah.
Well, those clothes are provided by the police department, so somebody has to clean those clothes. So we cleaned those lineup clothes.
I had no idea.
And I know the things I never knew I was going to be in dry cleaning. So we also did the clothes for the police, the training thing out there at Blue Plains. We did the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus, their costumes. We did their clothes. But the problem in the space was that as we were coming out, they also came out with this thing called Dry Clean Depot. Get all your clothes done for $1 or something. And it just took the margins out of the business. So, I had probably the first black-owned cleaners in Rockville Pike. So we were in Rockville, you know what I'm saying? And we, cleaned our own clothes and all that. And I failed. And I remember just some of the relationships I had, and the sisters would be like, well, more would have to happen for you to say like this don't work. Like, so I tell people, you're going to be an entrepreneur, you do need to figure out before it gets there, what will you see success as and what do you see failure as? Meaning like you shouldn't throw good money is the money you got in your pocket. Bad money or money doesn't matter as the money's already gone. So don't throw good money after bad. And a lot of people don't get, they say things like, if you're doing something wrong, just stop digging. Now that sounds like pretty like makes sense, right? But if you've invested a lot of digging into something, you might keep digging. It may not be. It's like a bad relationship. If I get out of this, then I got to go through the whole process. So a lot of times people give you this like cute logic. Oh, stop digging. But yeah, you got to stop digging. Like that good money ain't gonna help that bad money turn good. And so I tell people in entrepreneurship, you should know what that limit is. When is it where enough's enough? And that being said, I ended up filing bankruptcy in 2003. We ended up being evicted out of the one part of the business and then still had the other businesses and then just wound it down. It ended up just being, here's another thing. You think it's a multiplier effect. You get multiple businesses, then you can like have this, economies of scale. I tell people in business, if you ain't got the first one right, don't do the second. Get one right. Execute like amazingly the thing that you got, and then go to something else. But don't think that you're gonna have one bad kid and get three more bad kids, and this is gonna somehow turn into a good family. Like you're gonna have to get this thing right. So anyway, make a long story short, we ended up going bankruptcy, and but at that time, I was also, and I didn't bring this, I was ANC commissioner in DC. So we actually back in '90, it was before '98, but we ran a Howard University student. The first time it ever had happened, we ran a Howard University student for city council. At that time, I was a part of this political party called the Emoja Party. And there was, Rick Malachi, Kenry, Mark Thompson. There's so many folks that was a part of that. So we were part of that movement too with the Emoja Party. And we ran a candidate. And it was the first time this guy named Jim Graham ran. We ran Jim Graham, Frank Smith, and my guy was a guy named Nick Eames. And what's interesting about Nick Eames was my vice president when I got kicked out of school at Tuskegee. So I came to Howard first, and then we had some friends who were the trustees at Howard University, and they helped Nick get into school. He actually brought his girlfriend too at the time, and we actually, God bless him. So he ended up coming to Howard. So he was a chemical engineer. I was a mechanical engineer. He ended up running as a student, and he was the chair of the ANC. It was so incredible. People don't know this, but if you look at the U Street corridor, much of that development started with Black politicians who were really concerned about developing that area. But what happened, we ended up having a gentrifying city council member, Jim Graham, where at the end of the day, all this promise, and what had happened, they had just built the U Street Metro. So that whole area was really disrupted from the Metro. And we were part of trying to get it back together. And again, if you could have hindsight, this is before the Ellington was there. This is before Republic Gardens had opened, open and closed, like all of these things that have now become staples. U Street parking hadn't been U Street parking. We helped them when they were just starting to do the parking for Mark Barnes at the Republic Gardens. Wow. And then the Reeves building had Club U. Like, so we were here early, and a lot of the things that happened, again, we can look back in hindsight and talk about that, probably another long conversation. But we ran Nick Eames. I had been ANC commissioner also. We made sure that we, tried to get as many other students, a brother named Jonathan Hutto. There was a lot of folks that we tried, and we even formed relationships with Georgetown University because they had some students running in Ward 3 for their seat. With that being said, we ended up having, a business that's closed down. I'm an ANC commissioner still, trying to make the best things out of a situation. Ultimately, a good friend of mine who I met at Howard, named Adrian Fenty, ran for a mayor, and he was getting his campaign off the ground. And we both became ANC commissioners at the same time, but he went on, of course, to do amazing things as a city council member, and we supported him there. But when he ran for mayor, he wanted some help, and decided to let me volunteer for his campaign to see if it was a good fit at the time. And I ended up being his a field director and ran his campaign. And for the first time in history, uh, a candidate was able to win every precinct. At the time, DC had like 142 precincts. We won every precinct, and he became mayor. And one of the things I'm always fond of saying, I had somebody talk about gentrification. Under Adrian's watch, it was the first time since like the 60s that actually DC's population increased, meaning that Adrian actually stopped Black folks from leaving, even though white folks still were moving in. He actually created a situation where the population of DC actually grew. He literally, and again, all politicians got flaws. So I'm not saying in any kind of way, even though I think Adrian was the best ever in the world. He actually built more schools and rec centers and libraries in 4 years than some previous mayors did in 4 terms. And when you look at some of the things that we still need in our community, I realized after that experience, and again, when I say that experience, we ended up getting in the newspaper, people would attack, and the politics. It's one of the few places where people don't have to get anything done and just blame everybody. So when I say that, in engineering, either it works or it doesn't work. With politics, people might just not like you. Like women in politics have some of the most difficult times because a man can roll up his sleeves and look like he's working hard. And if a woman don't have everything just right because of sexism, oh, she looked disheveled. I mean, she's knocking on thousands of doors and doing all this stuff. She's going to have to keep her stuff. Like, come on, that don't even make sense. But you'll see factors have nothing to do with outcomes being used to determine, if you're successful or not. And that kind of was one of the things that really got me back into engineering at the end of the day, and out of politics, and said, you know what, I need to stick more to the things I know in engineering than trying to do something else. And in many ways, the transition into a life out of politics and into trying to make a difference in technology was probably the best thing. And then, of course, as Adrian left, he moved out to Silicon Valley, and there were some opportunities he thought I might be interested in. I looked at some of these things, and one of the biggest things that changed was they came out with a technology called Bitcoin, blockchain technology. So we started looking at ways that we could use technology to actually make the changes in the lives of our people, and started a startup. I actually, and let me just backtrack. I also had a business partner who I actually had met through some friends at Tuskegee. Friends at Howard. Well, actually UDC, a brother named Obi, and I went to Zimbabwe for the first time in 2008. And we were looking at working on a project for ethanol to actually help Zimbabwe, who is under sanctions. So once the Zimbabwean government got their land back from the colonizers, from the Europeans, the United States under Bush put sanctions against them. So they were having really a lot of problems. And we said, we could probably help with some ethanol where they could use their actual sugar cane and use it as fuel. But one of the hardest things we had was moving money and getting investors. And so when they came out with this blockchain Bitcoin stuff, we said, look, there's another way we can move money around instead of going through the typical bank system. And we could probably do more to help our people than, determining elections. And I know that's kind of interesting, but we were like, look, if we figure out ways that we can connect and help people invest and move funds to build things, then it may not even matter who's the president. We can actually do for ourselves, which is really what, drove us on that. Well, as I continued working on projects in Africa, I realized moving money was a hard thing. We looked at this blockchain Bitcoin stuff, and then we realized there was other problems, not just in Zimbabwe. There's problems all over the world as it relates to Black people. And that's what kind of inspired I Love Black People, was that we realized that everywhere we went, I've been to over 60 countries. Everywhere I've gone, Black folks have had like a Black tax. When I say a Black tax, like racism is everywhere. White supremacist ideology is everywhere. So it acts as like a weight on our people's back. So when they're doing anything, they're dealing with these problems. So we said, look, we got the technology that we've already used to connect people, to send money. What can we do to have a better impact on our people? And the Green Book started rising up and people started hearing more about it. We started studying the concept of the Green Book, where in from 1930s to 1960s, where African Americans were traveling, they had a guidebook to help them figure out where were the places they could go and not be murdered. And I say it that graphically is because some people think that the Green Book was a black business directory. It was not. From 1930 to 1960s, I'd say easily between 40 to 60%, were non-black businesses, depending on the year you talk about, because the real point of the Green Book was to make sure that black people were safe. Full stop. Not turning the dollar over, trying to be super rich. It was literally they had sundown towns where you go to the wrong place, you could go to jail or get lynched. So we said, look, we're still facing this type of oppression globally. Let's come up with a digital way where we can create something like the Green Book, where people all over the world now can have safe travel, almost like a map that filters out racism. And we came up with the platform I Love Black People and used the technology that we had already developed and had been working in to help power it. And actually, instead of in the original Green Book, it focused on three categories: transportation, food, and accommodations. We expanded it to include healthcare, education styles, childcare, finance, and legal and beauty. So what we want to do is that no matter where you go in the world, if you need some help, we have all the tools that you need to take care of you. With that being said, you could be sick in Denmark. It's going to be hard to Google non-racist doctor, but there might be a Mongolian woman, not black, a Mongolian woman that the all the people there really respect, and she respects and treats black folks with dignity. Hey, go to her. This is information that we can get access to because we're the plug. We have the information. It's about how do you aggregate it. So we came up with a crowdsourcing way to pull this information to create a network of relationships. So no matter where black folks go, they can identify safe places where they don't have to worry about being harmed or humiliated. And where our biggest thing, we say we want black folks to live fearlessly. We want you to travel. We want you to wake up in the morning fearlessly to make sure no matter where you go in the world, you're going to be treated with the dignity and respect that we deserve as human beings. So we look at things like George Floyd. He literally was at a place where they accused him of having a counterfeit bill. Let me just be candid with you. And he ended up murdering him. I've gone to places, I'm not going to say in DC, but I've gone to places where I've drank too much. And instead of calling the police on me, they called a Lyft or an Uber.
Mm-hmm.
My point is, when people value you and want you to be there, they treat you differently. And these are things that we gotta be clear of when we're talking about. We got to make sure that we're clear about when we're trying to do the things that we're doing to make sure that we're doing what we need to help our people. So it's not one of those things where we deserve to go places where we're treated well. We got to make sure that we do that in a way that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So we now have technology that literally can help us do that and give our people options that make sense. So again, that's how we got here. And then one of the biggest things that's been a lot of our members and folks' mind has been this upcoming election. And we said, look, we need to leverage our platform in order to help make sure we can make a difference in what's going on and engaging people for this election cycle. I told you, I'm no longer in politics, I'm in technology. But with that being said, we still want to enable our people. At the end of the day, the focus of I Love Black People is to use tech to protect Black people from racism and xenophobia. Well, we want to make sure that our people are enabled in all the different areas that they experience. And one of those experiences is a political experience. We want to make sure they have access to good information. So what we came up with our team was that we called it a high tech, low touch approach. We created a t-shirt with a QR code. Like one of the biggest problems right now in the election cycle, typically in somebody who's ran campaigns, you'd be knocking on doors. They call it knock and drag and getting people out, GOTV. I always wonder, like, why don't they say get out the vote? Because GOTV and get out the vote, same amount of syllables. But anyway, we do the GOTV, get out the vote, whatever you want to call it. It's a lot of human contact typically involved. But with the coronavirus, you don't want to put people in jeopardy for people's political ambitions.
Yeah.
So the thing was, how can we make an impact on this particular cycle for our people without them being sick. So we came out with a concept where, look, we've already identified all these Black businesses, and many of these businesses have been disproportionately impacted by the coronavirus, meaning our business has been shut down more. We had less to start with, all kinds of things. They didn't get the bailout. They don't bail us out. When I went bankrupt, no one came to save me. I just had to take that. The point being made, we said, look, we'll give T-shirts to the businesses that they can give out for free. So we'll drive traffic to these businesses with the free T-shirts. They want to be there. So they want people to come see them. So it's not like you paying a canvasser to knock on door, they get sick and they die or get hurt. You're now dealing with people who already are trying to get people to come and be of service to their business. Now you're giving them help to get people to come there as an incentive, a free T-shirt. That's pretty nice. That being said, on the back is a QR code. They can scan with their phone. Again, no touching.
Yes.
With your phone, and it gives you all your voter registration information, mail-in voting, early voting, and absentee ballot requests. All that, and plus we also, in addition, had information where they could actually contribute Black agenda information. Because right now, people are getting tired of being pimped for their vote and not getting anything out of it. So what we said is, look, it's not that you're getting pimped for your vote. We spent so much time, and I started this story out about how hard it was to get registered. Well, we tried to get people not registered now. We've been trying to get people to register and vote. Well, in 2008 and 2012, Black women outperformed every demographic for the first time in the history of the United States. Let me say it another way. Black women effectively haven't been able to vote, but for the last less than 50 years. And if you really want to be candid, probably been 30 years of it really been accessible.
Yeah.
White men with property have been voting for about 200 years. Black women outperform white men, white women, Asian men, everybody. 2 cycles in a row. So I'm not saying that we've, as a people, mastered voting, but literally Obama wouldn't be President Obama if it wasn't for the Black woman, because the Democratic Party didn't even invest any money in getting them out. They still spend all their money on the white woman, suburban person. But the Black woman, in 2 cycles consecutively, without people spending lots of money on her coming out, outperformed every demographic. With that being said, I told you, we started off, it was difficult trying to get registered. Then we got motor voter. Then Black women showed that Black folks, with the right, motivation of a decent person running, boom, will outperform every person.
Yeah.
This is a part of what they call political maturization. Our political maturity will demand us to have a higher expectation of the process. So we went from just registering as an issue, to voting being an issue, to electing people as an issue. Now we're like, wait a minute, we elect presidents now. What are we getting for electing presidents now? Now, that ain't something we've been doing for hundreds of years. That's a new phenomenon. We've been electing presidents just for the last 10, 15 years. What do we get for that? And that's a rational, reasonable expectation.
Yeah.
We can't be getting a bucket of chicken and some watermelon. That's not acceptable. You can't get us some saxophone playing. We want tangibles. And it's about time we start talking about reparations now. Not talk about we need to get that. And HR 40 is a study. Now, a study, and it came out in 1989. A study? We don't need a study. You need to cut the check.
Yeah.
No, not because you're as a handout. Listen, this is a capitalist country. I deserve my inheritance. It was lawfully denied me, which was against all rights and privileges the Constitution provided my people. There's no way that you should have done. And that's why when people talk about the Constitution, it's been so wicked in America. They have to keep making extra laws that literally are supposed to be there already for everybody. But literally, my inheritance was denied. There's a penalty on that, and there's some interest on that. I need to cut the check. And then you hear people say, well, what Black folks gonna do with the money? It's none of your damn business. Okay. Yeah. What I do with my money. Okay. Because this is my money. but that's not gonna be an excuse for you not cutting the check because you're not sure what I'm gonna do with it. That's ridiculous. Cut the check.
Yeah.
And again, that doesn't mean don't do things for HBCUs. That's the right thing to do. You should. That don't mean you don't do things for Black folks to make sure things are safe. That's the right thing to do. But explicitly cut the check, because literally there are Americans who were denied their inheritance That and the government was directly involved in it, so the government should be directly involved in the remedy of it. So again, but these are all things as we mature politically are things that we are going to demand and need to expect.
Yeah.
Now, when people say I'm not going to vote, that could be a strategy, but it's probably not very effective because the reality is most Americans don't vote. Like literally, any election is only going to be probably about less than 40% of the electorate actually goes out and vote. So when you don't vote, you're just actually making someone else's power more because whoever wins is going to represent everybody.
Yep.
So you're not voting. And now you want to do something to piss the system off or to show your outrage, don't pay your taxes. So you'll see quickly which one the government really don't like, not voting or not paying taxes. One will put you in jail and one they don't care. So let's be clear, if you that person, you go hard, talk about that checkbook. But when you say I'm not going to go vote, you really, they didn't want us to vote anyway. So to make that your Trump card, I don't mean to use Trump, to make that your card that you're going to use, you ain't doing anything.
Yeah.
But that doesn't say that we still shouldn't be holding all politicians. But no, we should hold everyone accountable, not just politicians. We need to hold ourselves accountable. When we wake up in the morning, we should be holding ourselves accountable for our agenda. So what we've included as a part of our program is when you scan the QR code, is that you actually get a list of Black agendas. Wow. From Ice Cube's agenda to the Black Panther Party's agenda. There's Black folks been putting together agendas for a while. It's about connecting those agendas. And then when you go out and vote, make sure you're voting your interests. So on the back of our shirts.
Yeah, I was just going to say, are you rocking it? Yes.
Yeah. So on the back of the shirt, it spells love. So L stands for lead with an agenda. O stands for organize our communities. V says vote your interests, vote our interests. And then E stands for elect and stay engaged. So in a real way, what we're saying is that this is part of a process of development that we're going to go through, and everything's not going to always work out the way we want to. That's just a part of it. You know, it's just like making anything happen. But we need to, again, stay vigilant and stay engaged. And there's nothing like, you saw the attacks on Ice Cube about his agenda, this and that. Listen, I had people say, well, he did it at the wrong time. There's never a wrong time to stand up and ask the question.
Yeah.
It may be a wrong time for us to be whooping on each other. So even if you disagree with Ice Cube, we don't have to be mean. Like we got to stop. Listen, and I learned a lot of this. Again, I told you I ran for office and won and lost. So there's been people who's bad at me and people like me. We shouldn't let this politics, this thing make. And I learned it from Ronald Moulton. Ronald Moulton is probably one of my biggest inspirations. Yeah, Ronald Moulton.
Been on with us a few times.
Yeah. 1969, baby. So there's a kindred spirit. He's always inspired me. Shout out to Ron, like you said, amazing brother. But we need to be kind to each other. When people say they're your friend, they need to act friendly. So you got any friends that ain't acting friendly? That's not your friend. So we need to stop allowing the politics to make us upset at each other to the point where we're calling Ice Cube names and disrespecting him. At the end of the day, whatever he decides to do, fair. But I'd be candid with you. This was probably the first election cycle where I've heard entertainers actively talking about agendas.
Yeah.
Like I've heard academicians talking about agendas, but not, and that's what people say, well, he needs to stay in his lane. Now, if he's paying taxes, know what his lane is, whatever anybody's doing with his taxes.
Yeah.
He seemed like he might have to pay quite a bit, probably more than that $750. So my point is, if anybody, we all need to be concerned because they're going to send our brothers and sisters over to war. Whatever goes on with this government, we need to be clear that we're engaged with what's happening and what's going on and not be waiting for somebody to come save us. So again, we can disagree with each other. Like there's things I disagree with all these folks, but we don't have to be mean and disagreeable. And again, I've said things in ways that might be mean. And let me officially apologize to any and everybody I've ever said something that was hurtful, because again, that's not going to help us. We're not going to hurt each other out of here. We're going to have to help each other out of here. In a real way, I think that's one of the things that the agenda that was great that Cube came up with, the contract for America. He's not the first one. Tavis Smiley used to have his things. with talking about agendas. We've been working on this for some time. This is probably the first time, though, post Obama, that we're now, sobering up and saying, hey, there's more to this process than we're getting from it, and we need to hold ourselves accountable to make sure that happens. And so that's really the biggest part. And if people are interested, we got iloveblackpeople.com. We're doing a big push, and I'm gonna release this on your show, so you be the first one to hear what we're doing. So
please, exclusive.
This is an exclusive. So we're about to launch our last week of the campaign, the U.S. campaign strategy, and we're about to release a video. I wish we had the video here. We could play it for you. Wow!
We can always drop it in later, so we can always drop it in. It'll be.
I wanted to make it real exclusive, like. I apologize. I should have told Sister Whitney. Well, so with that being said, this is what we're doing. So I Love Black People is global. So we got members literally in over 30, 40 different countries, and many of them in Africa. So what we did was we had a group of our members, and many of our members have been concerned about what they saw with the George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, all these things. A lot of our members from Uganda, from Zambia, Sierra Leone, they all been concerned about it. And said, what can we do to try to show our collective concern and support for our brothers and sisters in the United States? So they all came together and we did a collage video and giving shout outs to Americans, letting our brothers and sisters in the States know that we're here to be supportive of them, and they always got a second home if they want to come. So it's going to be coming out this, and maybe today, I think it's today, we're going to have it come out, but I wanted it to be shout out on your show for the first time, making, breaking news. We got this one. And again, what it shows is that we're not alone. Black people, we're part of a 1.5 billion population. We're literally the same size as China. When people say, oh, so many China, it's literally Black people all over the world. You go to Fiji Island, there's Black people. We're literally all over the world. And we just never look at it like that, because somebody say, I'm from Chicago. Somebody say, I'm from Joburg. Somebody say, I'm from Kampala. But literally, we're all descendants of Africa. So in a real substantive way, culturally, who we are, what we're experiencing is interconnected. Yeah. And to show that interconnectedness, we're definitely getting involved in ways that allow all our people to be a part of it. Just as much as the SARS in Nigeria, dealing with police brutality there. Literally, the United States government has supported arms for all over the world. So when we start even talking about issues in Africa, we as African Americans, our foreign policy is driving a lot of the crazy things that we see all over the world. We need to take a better role, and more active role, in making sure that those policies are not so racist and harmful to Africa. There's no reason. Africa is not underdeveloped. Africa is overexploited. Let's be clear. This is not a sign of it's a sign of overexploit. Even our Black community, we're overexploited. We're being used to do all these things and we get nothing for it. So in a real way, we're trying to make sure that we're connecting our people through a network of relationships to keep them safe. We've actually used this project to use technology to help Black folks get access to information to help them make good decisions about voting. We're nonpartisan. We don't tell people to vote for who to vote for. I'm voting for the system. That's just me personally. Yeah. But whoever, it's not for me to tell you. Again, I'm going to take the consequences for my actions, and you're going to have to do the same. So I think that's the long short of it. And on October 31st, we're going to have this thing called I Love Black People Day, where we're going to be celebrating everybody getting out the vote for I Love Black People Day. I wish I could show it to you. Can you see this thing?
Oh, okay, move it a little. Okay, yeah, we can see it now. Yeah.
I Love Black People Day. Da, da, da. And we're all superheroes.
Oh, it looks awesome.
And we say, we are the victory. We are the victory. Us coming together is the victory. You being where you are doing what you're doing is the victory. So we got and what we're going to go forward, every 31st of the month, we're going to make it I Love Black People Day. I don't care what month it is. It'll always be a I Love Black People Day as long as it's the 31st day. We're trying to catch up on that February. They gave us some short days.
Right.
So we're gonna grab every 31st. So that's like December 31st, January 31st. You know, we had to do the knuckle thing. So it's like January, February, March is 31st.
You
Anyway.
I think that that's so genius and exactly what we need. I mean, so just hearing your story in general, so much about what you've done is about empowering the community, educating the community. And I know now you say you're not in politics, but goodness, nobody else with your unless they had your background, I don't think that they could have had this I love blackpeople.com and this get out the vote campaign. I'm just saying.
Thank you, sis. Thank you, sis. I'll just say thank you. Thank you.
It truly is awesome. Before I first want to just shout out the people who have been tuning in and showing love and asking questions and making sure that their voices are heard. Look, the nukes, first of all, I got to shout all of y'all out. Y'all have come out in a big way today, and my dad is one. So I feel like I'm right at home.
Hey, nukes make pretty babies. I'm clear your dad is one. I'm clear. Without a doubt.
Indeed, right? Now I know why I thought it was your political background, your Fenty background, right? That Josh Lopez came out of the woodwork, but he's also heavy noob. I know this well. Byron D says, my Tuskegee brother. And then he also says, Sinclair Skinner is a Tuskegee legend.
A servant. No, thank you, B. Thank you, B. But hey, this is a humble servant. Thanks for all y'all the support. That's all. Humbly.
Artist Senior says, Sinclair, okay, I'm not reading it right, but Trump is going to win because they're paid for because they pay for black media. Look, we can only say we got to get out the vote. Thank you, artists, for putting that out there.
God bless them. God bless them.
Robbie Dowling Gamble says, love it. Thank you, Robbie, for tuning in. And I can't get to everybody, but thank you guys so much again for tuning in. Remember, sharing is caring. Share this stream. It'll be here forever. And remember, we're going to throw the video up in there. We've already got some links already down there. So it can always be a great reference point, even past November 3rd, because we need iloveblackpeople.com every single day. But I know with these T-shirts, there's obviously a push for get out the vote. But after the 3rd, can I still rock the T-shirt and scan the code and something happen? Will I learn more about Black agendas? I know that does not end after November 3rd. What happens after that?
Oh, so that's awesome. So the answer is absolutely yes. So one of the things we've also included is window signs. Baby, can you grab a window sign, please? I got my wife here is helping me out. Thank you.
I love it.
So shout out to my wifey wife. Thank you, baby.
Thank you, wifey.
Yeah. Thank you, wifey. So we also have window signs for the businesses, and on that it says proudly Black and Black friendly, and then you got your QR code on there. So we're definitely going to continue organizing our people and making them safe. I'm sorry. I'm multitasking. I got my little niece here. Hey, niece.
Hi. How are you? I love it.
I got the extra family style going on. But so we're going to, and for those reasons, for the family, we're going to continue to organize. So we're going to organize for the Black Friday for November. We're really going to play a strong role during Kwanzaa. We're going to make sure that we connect as many cultural as well as relevant dates in our people's community so that we can leverage each other together. So one of the things, I told you we got 8 categories. The healthcare category, we're going to connect all these businesses all over the world that are in healthcare so that when you travel, we can almost create like our own healthcare provider. You go to I Love Black People. I don't care where you go, you'll get some good help. You don't have to worry about, like, people don't talk about it, but again, somebody like Serena Williams, who's wealthy, super fit, famous, and even got a white husband, almost died giving birth.
Yeah.
There's only one explanation, because people give birth literally, like right now, there's probably thousands of people giving birth, right? Who aren't wealthy, aren't famous, and they're not gonna almost die.
Yeah.
And that's, again, racism. Even, I don't care how much, just like you can't out degree racism and, I mean, out degree the coronavirus, you're not going to out degree racism.
Yeah.
We have to protect ourselves. We have to come up with systems that protect us. So we're literally are looking at the way that we're building this green book out. We're literally, we'll be able to create a healthcare system for our own people, where they can at least trust that they're not going to be experimented on like the Tuskegee experiment or denied service. So again, or even education, as much money to spend on education, it don't cost that much.
Yeah.
We could actually probably do it better ourselves, but we need to create these digital networks where we can connect, not just on being Black. So let me even be more clear on that. This is not just about saying, because you can have a poverty pimp be Black. What we're saying is you got to be interested in protecting Black people from racism and xenophobia.
Yeah.
So you can, no matter who you are, so it could be a non-Black business, Black friendly. If you're interested in protecting Black people from racism and xenophobia, we're signing you up. Okay, as long as you're not going to call the police if somebody got a $20 alleged counterfeit bill, we're not. That's unacceptable. Our humanity and dignity is worth too much more than that. And that's another thing. As much as people talk about money, I don't care how much money you have in your pocket. You deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. Full stop. So we're not going to let people come up with these little, ways to categorize us. It's unacceptable to harm us. So we're going to make sure we create spaces globally, especially in these key areas. I talk about education. I talk about health and finance. We have 8 categories. So after this is done, we're literally going to be creating these infrastructure, this global infrastructure where now, no matter where you go, you'll be safe. Now let's think, and the only thing I'm saying is we launched everything in September 30th. We're taking this rocket to a place where Black people are safe from racism and xenophobia. So literally, that's our goal. When you wake up in the morning, we want you to live fearlessly. We want you to be able to go anywhere you want. And again, Black is not monolithic. So if you, we're so diverse, but no matter how diverse we are as a people, no one should be harming you through racism and xenophobia, full stop. Yeah. And that's the world that we came in this decade with a lot of issues, but before this decade is over, we're going to have a world where Black people no longer are subjected to this racism and xenophobia without being protected. Full stop.
Wow.
So that's what we're doing. Yeah. So close your eyes. Whatever you envision with a world where you don't have to deal with no more of this racism and that's the world we're going to create before this decade is over. That's on everything. That's all. There's nothing else to talk about. It's not about who's running for. I don't care who wins. We're not going to tolerate this racism and xenophobia. Mm-hmm. No matter who wins. Mm-hmm. How much money you got in your pocket? If you hit the lotto, if you get $1 million, we want Black folks to be dead broke and be able to go anywhere in the world and not get whooped and beat down through racism and xenophobia. That's what we want.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, again, I would just love to be a fly on the wall during some of your brainstorming sessions, because it is so genius and it is so right, and it is exactly what we need. Can you please promise to me that on the 31st or something, we have at least a iloveblackpeople.com, afro.com, nice collabo, some sort of, we got to do.
Absolutely. And what you're doing, like, again, these outlets, what you've done to reactivate some of the legacies that have been left for us. Like, we didn't have to create homecomings. Homecoming was there for us. We didn't have to create the Tuskegees and Howards. They was there for us. But we also have an obligation to our ancestors to pick them up and dust them off sometimes and make them better. Yeah. And again, that there's nothing wrong with being critical of that. Like, they need to be better. And that's why that we have babies, so that they can make it better. And we're the babies that are going to make it better. So praise God for the opportunity to leave something better than we found it. And the fact that however long you stay with the Afro, I just want you to know what you're doing is taking that legacy a bit further. And being someone who's taking that responsibility, we're just thankful. If you don't get that, we don't thank each other enough, because this stuff can be hard. We're talking about racism, sexism. I'm clear. Like, all this is hard, and I just humbly, sister, in spite of the wrong, please continue to do what you do, please. Because we can be funny style. I'm just I've been dealing with Black institutions. Black institutions be funny style. You've been giving all your love. Look, this is what I'm saying. Whatever you give all the love that you don't look. But once you die, before you get to that point where you're sick and tired, being sick and tired, just give it a kiss and go by. That's okay. Don't get to the point where you give so much that you become bitter. I've seen people, even in the activist world, I've seen people become sellouts in the sense that they feel like everybody got something and then they didn't get it. Whatever, don't be willing to give something that you can't like leave with them.
Yeah.
Give them what you can leave with them and then move on. And someone else, if we pray to one God, it's not you, but it's us. You do what you can do and cheerfully.
Mm-hmm.
And then once the cheer is gone, when the thrill is gone, you gotta go. Well, God bless you.
Oh my goodness. I just have to say, I knew that I would be inspired. I didn't know I was going to be preached to today. And I absolutely love it and need it. That is exactly what I know I needed on this Monday. From all the viewers who have tuned in, I would say that they have to agree. Oh my goodness. Sinclair Skinner, thank you for your decades. I mean, you said your age, so I think I can say it's been over 3 decades of work. It's amazing to me. And again, I just am so inspired. And I thank you so much. This is great. How can the people continue to support all that you're doing with iloveblackpeople.com? Let them know before we wrap.
Absolutely. We have right now the project we're doing to get people out to vote. It's called iloveblackpeople.com. You're also going to become a member. You can become a paid member, a free member, an ambassador. Again, iloveblackpeople.com. You want to send us an email at info@iloveblackpeople.com, info at iloveblackpeople.com. You can. We're on social media. You can hit me on, I'm on Instagram, Sinclair Skinner, full name spelled out. And please, continue again and recommend businesses. One of the things that if you have any Black owned or Black friendly businesses that you really appreciate and respect what they do, please go ahead and give us recommendations. And for the businesses that are out there, please check on them. Because when we did this project, one of the things we found out with some of the businesses that we had on our platform are now closed. Mm-hmm. So these are real situations. So that we're here though. We're the adults in the room. So if anybody's going to do something about it, at least come and be supportive of them. So again, definitely we appreciate what you're doing. Tune in to shows like this so that we can support the legacy of some people who came before us that put down some amazing work, and the good sisters that have picked up this amazing work to move forward. Thank you. I mean, that's that. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you to all the people who tuned in. We absolutely love you for that. Remember, sharing is caring. Go ahead and share this link. It'll be there forever. And we want the people to know how they can not only be educated, but engaged and spread love and just be the citizens that not only we hope them today, but need them to be. We have to do this together. As Sinclair said so beautifully in the beginning of this interview. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We are the Black Media Authority. You know that there's more coming to you. So stay tuned.